caterers in the region here.
Yeah. Awesome.
We are so thankful for all the vendors that are here tonight. Your participation is vital, obviously, as we all come to the table to open up conversations about tough subjects like addiction. Even back in ancient times when Jesus walked on the earth, the time for enjoying company and talking about present and future plans happened around the table with good food, right? We, again, will have a brief period of quieting down with our food vendors. So if you will please stop your transactions, I'd appreciate it. That would be very helpful to us. I want to take a quick moment to give credit where credit is due for this event. And that's first of all to God. He knew long before Oh Taste and See was even a thought in my head that we would all be here tonight. If you're here, it is no coincidence. You are supposed to be here to listen to what our fantastic speakers have to say tonight. And I believe that they will inspire you, they will relate to you, and bring hope to you as you listen to their stories tonight. I want to say this: addiction is a disease. It's not a choice. It affects people from all walks of life. What is a choice is recovery. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is hope for recovery. In our Refresh group, we have an opening dialogue that we all say at the beginning of our meeting. The last words of it are this: we understand that although our journeys may differ, our goal remains the same: to find joy and peace in our lives, regardless of the choices of our addicted loved ones. My goal tonight is that each one of you leaves this place with a sense of joy, peace, and hope for your circumstances and for your recovery. I will now turn the stage over to Mallory Nimitz, my husband, to introduce the first speaker. Mallory.
Well, what a turnout. This is just a great honor, and I'm so thankful to be amongst this crowd, and certainly to be introducing my son. So this isn't going to be an ordinary biography or anything like that. I'm going to speak very briefly about our journey. So growing up, Rylan and I were just, inseparable. We were playing ball together. I was coaching. We were hunting, and it was just we were best buddies. You saw us always together. And then years later, addiction took over, and I got to admit, it seemed hopeless to me for a while. But even when I was about ready to give up, a good friend of mine who tragically lost a child told me whenever there's breath, there's hope. And so Carla, my wife, and I, we never gave up. Then I've just got to tell you, by the grace of God, almost 5 years ago, Rylan changed. And his friends, his new friends, have been so important, so instrumental in not just his life, but even in my life. I've gotten to be so close with the new acquaintances, new circles that he runs in. And I'll just close with this. We all in here have numerous heroes. I've got many of you out there heroes to me. I can tell you what, tonight, this guy is one of my biggest heroes.
I love you. Man, you got me emotional before I started. I'm Rylan Nimitz. I'm an addict, an alcoholic, an ex-convict, a felon. We're going to get through it. But today, I'm a husband, I'm a father. I like to think I'm a pretty good son. I'm a brother, I'm an uncle. I try to be a good friend. I'm a regional sales manager. I'd say I'm pretty good at my job. I'm accountable. I'm consistent. I'm passionate. I say all of this to say that I owe everything I have in my life to recovery and to God. Without one, there's not the other. Now, I'm here to tell my story about how it was, what happened, and how it is today. Bear with me as I convey this story to both people in recovery, which I'm very used to. I like to speak at rehabs and correctional institutions and 12-step meetings. But also to you that are here as family of addicted loved ones. And man, there's a lot of you familiar faces out here that I'm not really used to talking in front of. So my hardest times, I'm just gonna kind of give you a rundown of that. Then I'm gonna go through my timeline that led up to me changing my life. 13 years of alcoholism and drug addiction on and off. I've been arrested 20 or so times. I really honestly don't know the number. Every time alcohol or drugs was involved in some form or fashion. I spent 15 months incarcerated in the county jail and RPF run by the Arkansas Department of Corrections. I spent a year and a half of my adult life in sober living. I've spent 3 stints in rehab. And I even once lived at the Salvation Army in Memphis for 2 months. I come from a good family. Like my dad said, growing up was good. It really was. My family did everything in the world for me. I am the classic example of this can happen to anybody. When addiction grabs you, it's a disease that the phenomenon of craving takes over, and anything in my life that I can be addicted to, I can get addicted to it. Gambling, hunting, the gym, drugs, alcohol, some drugs more than other drugs. But my experimentation with everything started in high school, and it became a problem when I started getting minor possessions and DUIs. In college, I realized after, I think 3 DUIs and 3 minor possessions and multiple public intoxes, that painkillers would make me feel the same as alcohol. But nobody knew for the time that I was messed up. So that became my go-to. First, it was, it really didn't matter, it was hydrocodone, and that became Oxycontin. And for a while, when you're starting out, when an addict starts something, it can be covered up, and it's maybe a little dangerous, it's a little fun. But once people start to know that you're messed up, all the fun's sucked out of it. Once you start making bad decisions as a result of your addictions, life just goes from, really what it does is addiction takes your good attributes, and then it, for me, made me use them to do bad things. I might not look like I would take from you, and I might have the charisma of somebody that wasn't messed up, but I would look you in the eye and I would steal something behind your back. And I know I'm not the only person out there that's been there. So, the first time we tried to get me straight, my grandpa took me on a road trip. It's one of the most loving things that anybody's ever done for me in my life. We went 3 months, hit every state and national park we could between here and the Everglades and back across the U.S. And man, painkillers had a hold on me. I was off for 3 months, but the first day I got back, I had to get one. After that, it became apparent half a year later, I needed rehab. That's when I was introduced to 12-step programs and the concept of sobriety. Before that, I thought being sober was, well, I could drink 3 beers and it would all be fine. But true sobriety means that you abstain from alcohol and drugs one day at a time for the long term in your life. And to me, that means everything. Like I said, I owe everything to recovery. My life today is so much better. If I have a bad day, I know how to get over it. I don't need drugs or alcohol to do that. Hell, it's a wonder I can even sleep at night. I used to love to stay up for weeks on end. People can relate if you've been there, but stay up or need to smoke weed or need to drink a 12-pack just to go to sleep. I literally go to sleep without any assistance every night before my wife. It makes her mad because I say night and I have to close my eyes. That's a miracle from God in itself, honestly, because I hated sleep. I hated sleep from the time I was 1 year old. And my mom and dad went through hell with me as a kid. So from rehab, I tried to get it. I wanted to come home. I was headstrong. My family wouldn't let me come home. They tried to do what people told them was the right thing to do. I had a buddy, best friend of mine, one of my best friends still to this day, bought me a bus ticket back across America. I came home for 3 weeks. I was doing cocaine and drinking whiskey for 3 weeks straight because I would not do a painkiller. But I fell into just a deep depression over that. And luckily, after being shown sobriety and 12 steps in it, you can live a better life, I decided to go live in a sober living home. And that kicked off, I moved to Maine to live in the sober living home. That kicked off my first continuous year of sobriety. At that point, I was probably 22, 21. I started drinking again after that year and seemingly successfully for a couple of years. I did notice that on Thursday nights, I'd get that itch because the weekend was coming. It's always something in the back of my mind. I also was taking amphetamines, prescribed, and that became kind of a thing, and it was an ongoing thing for the next 12 years of my life. In Maine, I had great relationships. I had a great career. I became a mortgage banker. I found all the success that somebody with the gifts that I have, that God gives you, can find in the world. But with the money, it was almost like the first big paycheck that came, I knew I was going to go buy some oxys, or I knew the drugs would creep back in. But I wasn't sober. I was drinking. I was living a lifestyle that wasn't meant for me. But financially, I looked stable. I owned a house. I had a car. I had long-term girlfriend, all that stuff. But once drugs came back into the picture, all that went away very quickly. Sober living in Maine, after the drugs, I knew I needed to get back into a program, so I got back in a sober living for 10 months. I figured out how to really abuse my amphetamines at that point. I got off painkillers. I quit drinking. They allowed me to keep taking Adderall. I started taking 8 or 10 Adderall 30s a day at that point. I let that continue for a couple years. A good drug addict will figure out how to work the system any way they can when they're using. I moved home after that. My drug use increased. Found ways to isolate. I made excuses for myself. I want to have everything that my friends had, but I wasn't willing to do the work for it. I had friends that were established, that had families, that had businesses, that day-to-day lives were something they've been working on for 10 years. And I came home at 27 and I really was lost. At that point I began to steal and pawn stuff to support my drug habit. I had an apartment in Jonesboro, but I would live in my car to stay close to casinos, just to go gamble. My family just didn't know what to do with me. My mom would show up in Jonesboro at my apartment after a week of not talking to me, I'd let my phone die or just let my plan go out. Just to show up to my apartment to find me not there and everything disheveled. I want to say, I talk a lot about me and my journey in this, but it all goes without saying that my family's been there for me the whole time, and they've really tried everything that they could to help me out. So if I don't highlight that enough in this, that's the rock that my life started being built on these days. Fast forward to stealing and pawning, the Salvation Army, all of that happened. I think at that time my parents, this was the first time they requested I get some jail time, but the lawyer got me set up at the Salvation Army in Memphis. Had a problem with authority, so I got asked to leave that place after a couple months. It wasn't over drugs, it was just I didn't like the rules. Started doing the amphetamines thing hard again, the drinking. My parents tried to employ me. I stole from their business. I would take from them any chance I got. I was set up renting a house here in town. I got behind on my rent. Lost my car. Started riding a lawnmower everywhere to go make money. I mean, hey, if you're from Forrest City and you hadn't seen me on a lawnmower, I don't know where you've been. You see me on Highway 70 headed to Crow Creek. You see me outside of Forrest City headed to Caldwell on a John Deere lawnmower. I didn't own that lawnmower, by the way. Anyways. That all kind of continued for a while, and it ended with me getting in trouble for stealing golf carts from the local country club. And that was like the end. That was the public disgrace. That was, at that point I knew I'd been letting my family down for 10 years and real publicly for a couple. And I was very low, very, very low. I wasn't allowed around, at that time I wasn't allowed around my parents' house. My sister had her first child. I was the only family member that wasn't asked to come to the hospital. All that stuff. That's what addiction does for you. County jail humbled me. When I got there, they put a big bond on my head, like a $250,000 bond. And there was the first time, there was nobody to call. Nobody at all. I did time, I know at least one person in this room. But when you realize that there's nobody to call, that's when it hits you that this is it. You've really screwed it all up. I had a cousin tell me about 10 years before that, life's about the choices you make. The choices you make are going to dictate what life gives you. And I realized that kind of at that time it hit home heavy. I was sitting in there surrounded by a lot of people that I knew weren't as well equipped to do things in life as I was. Maybe not as the same education, maybe not the same God-given talents. And I had to come to the realization that we had the same basic human rights at that point in time. It was 3 hots in a cot, you're in an 8x8 cell, and you ain't going anywhere, and nobody gives a damn what you got to say when you're back there. That was real humbling. And I was really mad. I was mad for about 7 months of county jail. I thought I could scheme my way out of it. I thought I could figure out a way to get out of my bond. I thought I could figure out a way to get out. I wanted to get out, and I wanted to get high for a long time. After that 7 months of bitter whatnot, I realized that I could potentially end up riding that out for a year. I said, you know what, I'm going to sign this state time. I can at least end this in 6 months. So I signed for 6 months to go to this RPF facility. Right before I got sent there, I got high in county jail on methamphetamine. And we got caught. I was a trustee, so I was allowed to kind of move around the jail and clean and cook for people and stuff. But we got in trouble, and I got put in this drunk tank in there. And if you're from Forrest City, I forget his name. Never mind. They had a homeless man used to live in this cell. They allowed him to live there before they sent him to the state hospital forever. I was sitting in this cell. I was high. It was dimly lit. There's no running water. I was basically in the lowest place you could be. And I just remember thinking to myself, this isn't so bad. I'm high. And then it hit me that I was in the worst place I could possibly be. In the worst place, the county jail. I mean, I guess solitary confinement might be worse than like state prison or something, but and drugs were making me think it was okay. Man, I've been doing drugs for 13 years at this point, and I've never had that true epiphany, and it hit me in there. There's a cross on the wall. People had written Bible verses with crayons, I don't know, on the wall, just different stuff. And I just said, okay, I guess if I've ever had a God moment, this is it. And from that point forward, I decided that everything that came my way that I didn't understand, that I didn't agree with, or that bothered me while I was doing time, I was just going to say, God, show me what you want me to learn from this. What are you showing me in this? When I got to state penitentiary program, the opportunity to run 12-step meetings opened up, and I realized that it was one of those times I had more experience with that stuff than any of the other 300 people that were in there. I've been to rehabs, been to nice rehabs. I've done extensive work on myself in the past. I know all about the 12 steps. So I started running a meeting when the opportunity arose. And God put it on my heart that if you're going to run the meeting and you're going to stand up in front of these men, you've got to mean what you're saying and you got to walk like you talk. And so it just, from there, it continued to grow. A meeting that started out with 10 or 12 guys here and there was 40 people packed every time we had it. I started to find purpose in my recovery at that point. And then I got out. And, my parents, they gave me a place to live for a short period of time as a trial run. I'm going to talk about my reentry now. I'm try to wrap this up. When I came back from doing time, I decided early on, well, it was really boring. I didn't have any direction, and I would go to a meeting at the Episcopal Church here. We still have this meeting every Wednesday night. It was me and this old man, Mark, and we would just sit there and we'd have a 2-man meeting every Wednesday. That was the only meeting I was going to. I decided to keep some things really simple. No social media for a year. That's something I had seen people do in the past. I decided if I was going to stay sober, I was going to be willing to do anything that I had seen people that did it successfully in the past do. So when I go to meetings, I raise my hand. I talk. I talk if it's a meeting this size. I talk if it's a 2-person meeting. I decided I was going to get a sponsor. I did a year with no sponsor, and I finally kind of got a little spiritually, I don't know. I just knew I needed more meetings and I needed more guidance. And so I figured other people get sponsors and they stay clean. I'm going to get a sponsor. I still have that sponsor to this day. We talk every morning at 7 or 8 a.m. That's one of those things, it's accountability. Accountability is big these days. It was big early on when I first came home. Just like picking up the phone and calling somebody. If you're in addiction or if you're in recovery and you need somebody to call, call another addict, call another recovering alcoholic or addict. That always is a better choice than whatever the alternative is, especially stewing on it and sitting on it by yourself. You don't want to do that. My work when I came home was very menial. I started working at West Tree Service, making like $10 an hour. From there, I went to work at the highway department. I really learned how to work a 10th step. when I was there, to continue to take personal inventory when you're wrong, promptly admit it. A lot of things at the highway department really bothered me, and I think most guys that work out there could say the same. Just my coworkers would piss me off, situations would get under my skin, and I would get really mad. And then I'd say, okay, why are you mad? Because this is the best job, I'm mad because of this. This is the best job that you can get right now because of the choices that you made. And they usually get me through it. Shortly after that, this is a God thing, I about got hired at the steel mill to go work factory job out there, and because of my background check, it didn't work out. Instead of getting high about it, instead of getting down about it, I asked God to show me what He wanted me to learn from it. 2 weeks later, I got a call from an industrial concrete company to come start being a project manager for them. That job was awesome. It taught me a lot, and it segued into the role I have today. And I'm a regional sales manager for a company that contracts with the steel mills. I have unrestricted access to every steel mill in this region. So the one that didn't hire me, I work with all the management out there. It's only God can do stuff like that. The other thing that's very surprising upon my return is the grace that I got from the community. I left this place doing bad things. I came back, and there was a long road for me to get to where I'm at today. And the people that I had hurt, people that I had wronged, there's still some that I need to make amends to. But those who I have approached and made amends to, even if they weren't ready at first, now talk to me when we're in the same room. Now shake my hand when they see me. And it was okay when they didn't want to. That's fine. That's part of recovery, man. You make the amends with where you can, how you can. If you can't make an amends, you have a living amends. I'll be living amends my family for the rest of my life. Nothing I say can ever fix that 13 years. But who I decide to wake up and be every day, and how I decide to do this one day at a time, is a way that I try to make them proud as much as I can. A few things about recovery that I just wanted to highlight. Recovery, it has to be selfish. If you don't do it for yourself, you're not doing it for the right reasons. People that are families of addicted loved ones that are here, the big book, it's the AA big book, and there's also a 12-step book for Celebrate Recovery too, and I like Celebrate Recovery as well. I just subscribe to the big book mostly of AA. It says frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices, and that means that Rylan won't get sober for his mom. She loves him so much and does so much for him. It doesn't work. Your husband won't get sober for you because you love him and do so much stuff for him. That doesn't work. I'm going to get sober for my kids. It doesn't work in the end. There's always something else. The frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices is something that struck home with me a long time ago, and it's always rung true. Until the day I decided I wanted to get sober for myself, and I wanted to get better, and then I wanted to start showing up for through that I show up for everybody in my life. I'm a good father. I'm a good son. I'm a good husband. I try to be a good friend to my friends. I got a lot of good friends these days, and I got a lot of friends that I don't deserve. But you know what? I'm somebody that they can count on, and I'm very proud of that. I know I need to wrap this up, so I just want to say, if you are struggling and you're looking for a way to do it, man, 12 steps is a good way. Celebrate Recovery is a good way. You got to get out of your free will, self-will, and start living in God's will. You got to ask Him, what's He trying to show you? Because things aren't going to go your way. Things don't go my way today. I still try to revert back to that, hey, God, what do you got for me? Things go my way a whole lot more today than they ever have in my life, I'll tell you that. I got a life that's next to none. I have a life beyond my wildest dreams. I have an awesome family, a beautiful wife that supports me in everything I do, a wonderful daughter that is better than I ever deserve having. I'm afraid of the second one that's going to come eventually. I have a better relationship with my family than I've ever had. I have an awesome church family, awesome community. I'm so thankful that all of y'all are here. I just want you to know my door's always open. My number's always available. If you want to ask me any questions, usually when I'm at a rehab or a correctional facility, I do question and answer. But anytime you give me a call, you ask me whatever you want. I just say all that to say, like I said, everything I have in my life I owe to recovery and to God. And I stay grounded in that. If I'd have kept going, it'd have been.
That would have been fun too. That was amazing. Great job. Thank you.
Our next speaker tonight kind of comes at this from a different angle. Rylan talked about the importance of family, and our next speaker can tell you that even knowing that, it's hard to know exactly what to do. I'm anxious to hear her thoughts tonight. Chances are you have heard Janet Benson on the radio, or she's done 250 Mustang football games with me, of all things. She had the Healthy Women program for years when she was in marketing at Forrest City Medical Center, and has lived it from the family aspect of this. And she'll give her story now and give us something to think about as we leave here a little bit later. We welcome Janet Benson.
Wow, good to see everybody here. This is an amazing crowd. Yeah, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you. I'm Janet Benson. I have lived almost my entire life in this area. I've known the gentleman who introduced me for the biggest part of my life. Had the pleasure of working with him for nearly 20 years in radio. You may have seen that I am a mother of an addicted son, and that I am a Presbyterian pastor. With that, I promise I will try not to take it too long. I usually have a little clock set in the pulpit. I don't have that tonight, so I may need a signal from somebody like that. I have to admit, listening to Rylan, I got some chest pains. I got some real anxiety because everything he said, I have experienced on the other side of it. There is very much some continuity in how addiction works in someone's life and impacts the lives of those around them. I got to experience how it impacts the lives of those around them with Carla in Refresh. And let me pause here and say to both Carla and Mallory and Rylan, thank you for having the courage to step out of the shame. Because Rylan made a statement that really grabbed me. It said, but when people started to see, and that's what we don't want. As parents, we don't want anybody to know that our child has become an addict. Because we don't want them to think poorly of our child, but we don't want them to think poorly of us either, because we feel responsible for our children. So when Carla asked me if I would consider being a part of this Parents of Addicted Loved Ones support group, I immediately agreed. Carla asked me because Carla knew that my son was an addict. I don't remember how long it took me to stop trying to hide that. My son, Joshua Busby, began using drugs when he was 14 years old. Right now, he is in John 3:16 Recovery Ministries, just outside of Batesville. Yes, thank you, Harry. Thank you for all of the recovery ministries. But when I took him up there, let me back up a little bit. If Carla had asked me at the first of this year, will you come to O Taste and See this year? I probably would have said, I don't think I can. I just don't think I can be immersed in that right now. You see, my mom died on February 6th after years of dementia and being in assisted living. My son was nowhere around because he had gotten so deep in his addiction. My son, who's 43 years old now, did show up at her funeral, and after that went deeper in addiction than I have ever seen him go. That finally brought me to the point where I did give up. Mallory and Carla were able to hang in there, but I couldn't. I got to a point where my sister and I had to tell Josh, you cannot stay at my mother's house anymore. You have taken advantage of us, you've taken advantage of her house, you've taken advantage of everything. We are done. We are done. I physically, emotionally, mentally could not take it anymore. I knew that his addiction was killing me. Because, you see, I also had become an addict of sorts. I'll explain that to you. It's going to be a little bit circuitous. It's going to go in a winding path, but we'll get there. When our oldest grandchild was about 3 years old, he went into the backyard with me, and we had lots of flowers, and I told him he could pick a flower. So he picked something like a Gerber daisy. And we walked around, and he would pull a petal off the daisy, and he would hand it to me, and then we'd walk, and he pulled some more. And finally, he had pulled all the petals off the daisy, and he handed me the stem, and he said, "Fix it, Nan." I'm Van. And I said, "Kiddo, I can't fix this." And he said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, there are some things that just can't be fixed." I wish I had listened to myself and had learned that lesson, because all my son's life, I was determined I could fix this. I could fix this. I had tried for nearly 30 years to try to fix him. When I saw I couldn't hide it anymore, I couldn't hide from it because of the shame that it had brought, I just started trying to fix it. So Carla knew where I stood. She invited me, and I thought, it is so hard to come out of that shame. If she's willing to, I'm going to stand right there with her. And I did for as long as I could. And it's so interesting to hear Rylan talk about his experience, knowing that I had heard in the support group how we didn't hear all of the details, but some of the choices impacted them. And it helps you realize I'm not the only one that's going through this. Now, it's not misery loves company, but it's that we can learn things that have worked from other people. A very dear friend of mine in that group who has said some amazing things that I have taken away and I go back to a lot. But this one has helped more than anything. You didn't cause it. You can't cure it, but you can contribute to it. Well, it takes long enough to understand that you didn't cause it, because we can feel very much responsible. This has to be my fault. I must have done something wrong. They would never have done this without a good reason. And I don't care how many times, even as an adult, my son told me, "It's not your fault, Mom. It's not your fault. You had nothing to do with it. You did everything right." I was still convinced if I had just been a better mom, if I'd been more attentive, done something different. But the support group helped me get to that point. It's not my fault. I didn't cause it. And I can't cure it. But I can fix him. If we can just do X, Y, Z. You see, because it wasn't just me that had become addicted to fixing him. He was always looking for his next fix. I was always looking for my next opportunity to fix him. He was my next fix. Every time something went wrong, how can I fix this? Why? The wheels started to spin. Well, what I didn't realize was every time something went wrong, the wheels had already been spinning in his mind on the other side, thinking of, all right, this time I'm going to tell her this, and I'm going to cover all my bases. I did learn that the more detailed the explanation he gave me for needing money or needing whatever, the bigger the lie was. I did learn that. It still didn't always stop me from trying to fix it, though. And what I didn't understand was when I tried to fix it, I was contributing to it. One of the things that I can remember from the support group, because we would hear stories, we would hear past experiences from different parents or different family members of addicted loved ones. And there was one in particular where this woman's son, I think maybe they lived in Los Angeles, I don't know, but it was a large city. And this woman's son was an addict, and he was homeless. And I think he was living under an underpass or somewhere, but somehow or another, he did have the money to have a cell phone and keep a plan going. And he would stay in touch with his mom, and apparently he had gotten access to the fact that Home Depot or Tractor Supply or somewhere where it was having a sale on sleeping bags. And he didn't have anything to sleep in or on, and he really needed a sleeping bag. Could she please get him a sleeping bag? And she said, "No, I'm not going to do it." So when we're reading this story, I'm thinking, okay, my son has not been homeless. And I don't know that I could do that. But the more we heard about the story, and the more deeper into addiction my son got, the more I realized I need to start. I've been praying wrong. I've been praying for God to ease his pain, to get him over this, to let me see joy in his face again. That's not how God's going to get their attention. God's going to get their attention when I can stop fixing and let God do it, God's self. So a lot of times I would have to stop when I was being asked for something and just say, "Don't buy the sleeping bag. Don't buy the sleeping bag." It's those kind of things that we learn. Wherever you can find a support group, if it's a counselor, if it's clergy, if it's someone who has been there, I would love to be able to tell you that I am an expert at this. I am not. I still fail miserably. And the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, after having at least 1 week, possibly 2, I can't remember, it was a blur, of my son Josh being homeless, living out of his car, in Memphis. I had blocked him. I couldn't take the texts anymore. I told my sister she could block him if she wanted to, but I couldn't take it anymore. Could not do it. Well, my sister agreed to let him live out of his car in the carport of my mom's house, but he couldn't go in because he was scared he was going to be killed in his car in Memphis. And I knew that I could watch him through the doorbell camera in her carport, but I couldn't bear to do it because I knew if I looked at it, I'd buy a sleeping bag. I'd let him in the house. The story that Ryan told about that time when you have no one to call, that Friday before Memorial Day weekend, Josh got to that point. It is a story that maybe someday he can tell you. It is beyond imagination. I consider it a perfect storm of everything going wrong that could have gone wrong that only God could have brought together. When I hear him talk now about how close he was to taking his life, I can barely breathe. I had no idea everything that was going on because I finally got to the point where I gave up. I gave up trying to fix him because I couldn't. I gave up because I could not let him take my life, my physical health, my mental health, my emotional well-being. He was slowly killing me, and I had to make a choice. The Friday night before that Sunday, in a bizarre series of incidents, Josh called the man who was answering the phone that night at John 3:16 Ministries by accident. That's another interesting story for Josh to tell. Josh actually hung up on him 3 times, and the man kept calling back. The man was not supposed to call back, but he didn't know that. That was his first night on duty. Thank God for incomplete training. But Josh knew that was his only hope because we were done. My sister was done. I was done. My mother was she was gone. She was one of his 3 major enablers, my mom, my sister, and me. He had no one else. Nobody would accept calls. Nobody would give him money anymore. He knew that was his only option. So when that man called him back the 3rd time, he talked to him. When my sister and I took Josh up there that next Sunday, thank goodness for the gracious people at Wynn Presbyterian Church who found pulpit supply for me on very short notice because they only do this on Sundays. We met, we had to have an interview, our addict and the family members who brought him. And I sat there the whole time watching him through the worship service, not knowing at the time until later I found out he had done all the drugs he had left before we walked in there. I had no idea. Sometimes I still want to kind of take a fly swat to him. But we go up to where they're having the interviews, and they ask me, Mom, why are you here with your son? And I said, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I hope you can. And I looked at Josh. And any other time, I wouldn't have wanted to make eye contact with him because I would have been afraid it would have hurt his feelings. But I looked him in the eye and said, because I am done. You're killing me, and I can't let you do it anymore. And then they start to ask Josh questions, and I just pray, God, don't let him say anything stupid. And when I told Carla and Mallory that, they laughed. They said, we've done the same thing. We thought, please don't say anything stupid. Please don't say anything stupid. And the thing is, if I had given him the answers, that would not have been, he probably would not have been accepted. But they said, Joshua Busby, why are you here? And he said, because I'm 43 years old, I've lost everything I have. No one is willing to help me anymore, and I know it's my own fault. I don't have a job. My children will not talk to me. I've gambled away everything I had. I've tried everything, and nothing else has worked. So I'm just going to try this. I thought, oh, that will never do. That was the worst answer in the world. That was exactly the answer they were looking for. They had somebody who knew he had no other options because nobody else could fix it. He couldn't fix it. I couldn't fix it. None of us could fix it. Just like Rylan said, he couldn't get sober for his parents who he had seen put so much into his life. He had to get sober for himself. Josh had to be ready to be clean and sober for himself, and I had to be ready to let him do that. I finally got to the point where I realized I was one of the main things standing in the way of God working in my son's life. Because as long as I stood there trying to be Josh's savior, I was not leaving any room for God to work. Parents of addicted loved ones, whether it's siblings, spouses, children, grandchildren, don't be surprised when you find yourself wanting to fix your addict. Because as parents especially, and moms especially, I think, we're supposed to fix everything. We fix skinned knees, we fix colds, we fix trips to the emergency room to sew up busted heads. We fix it or we get it fixed. It's what we do. And we have to relearn it with an addict. We have to relearn who our addicts are. Another thing I learned at Refresh, the support group, the level that we are trying to deal with our addict on. My son was probably in his late 30s, or maybe around 40 at the time. But the level that we approached him at is the last level we remember them being clean and sober. I was treating my 40-year-old son like he was 13. And I thought I could fix it. I had no idea. You will want to isolate if you are a family member or a parent of an addicted loved one. You will want to hide the fact because it's too shameful for other people to know. Because you feel like you've been a failure. You feel like they'll think poorly of your loved one. But as long as anything stays in the dark, it cannot be healed. It takes Christ to bring it out into the light. That's the only way it's going to happen. If you are a parent of an addicted loved one, don't be surprised if you find yourself resenting families who seem to have everything right. Their kids never get in trouble. And let me tell you, it can be your own family. Because it's hard to parent an addicted loved one, and it's hard to be a step-parent. And the things that my husband went through watching me do, finding out that I was taking some money and giving it to Josh for things, knowing that he would know what Josh was going to do with it, but I believed whatever lie Josh told me. The fact that that man was here to introduce me is nothing short of a miracle. You can resent your own stepchildren sometimes. In the 7th grade, Josh was suspended for a week, the same week that Tyler, 9 months older than him, was named Student of the Month. Such is my life. It can make you bitter. And you cannot separate your addict's addiction from your own, because you're convincing yourselves that you can fix it is its own addiction. And until you set boundaries, another thing I learned in a support group, and learn, I can't fix my addict, but I have to take care of myself. It's the same for people like Rylan. We have to learn to say no. I am not doing this for you, and here is why. Because this is what it does to me. It's nothing against you. I have got to take care of myself. I've got healing to do, and I've got to learn boundaries. So I hope you'll understand that, and maybe you can have boundaries of your own. Learn to separate your addiction from your addicts. You are not the same person. Don't let shame keep you isolated. Find people you can talk to. Find people who will help you. There are all kinds of resources in this building tonight. There's a lot of this story that I can't tell you because it's not mine to tell. That would be my recovering sons, who will be graduating from John 3:16 on the Sunday before Thanksgiving. It's like a daisy that God put the petals back on, because I never would have dreamed in a million years that I'd be standing up here sharing this story. I couldn't fix Josh any more than I could have fixed that daisy, but God could. God fixed Josh and me and is healing our family. That will work for any one of you. I don't care how hopeless you think your situation is. I would say, God, I know you parted the Red Sea, but this is Josh. And I believed it. Your addicted loved one and your own addiction fixing is nothing for God. Who a friend of mine brought me to a verse that I kept going back to. She said, just read Exodus, read Exodus. I read the first chapter, the second, the third, until I got to Exodus 14:14. And every time I would read, I would ask God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And I got to Exodus 14:14, and the brakes just came on. I thought, this is it. It's when Moses was at the Red Sea, and the Egyptians were bearing down on them, and the people were screaming, you brought us out here to die. And Moses looks up at God and says, what have you done? And God said, be still, I will fight for you. And he did. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That was amazing.